Hey everyone, welcome back to another Top 5. Today we're going to be a tad bit narcissistic, and by that I mean we're going to be talking about the top 5 worst items for heavy. Now I'm sure there is some use of any of these items in a very specific situation, but this video is just going to be talking about these items as they are. Not if you can use them in combination with a vaccine or medic, or if they work really good with an engineer, just the weapon as it is. Now I shouldn't have to state this, but I will. These are opinions. Good and bad are all opinionated, so if you have a differing opinion, don't stab me over it. We're all humans probably, so it's only natural to have an opinion about something. With all that out of the way, let's delve into the worst items for the heavy. First up is an item that most would say is one of the best, but from my personal opinion, I do not think it's one of the best, I actually think it's one of the worst. Thus the reason it's on this list. This item is the gloves of running urgently. Now before you start writing your hate comments, just know that just because it's on this list doesn't mean it's never useful. I even sometimes use a weapon. It is seldomly useful as its goal is to make you move faster, but by doing so you take 35% damage with no damage fall off over a distance. You also do less damage, and when you put them away you still have this extra damage intake for a couple seconds after, making these only useful for long distances, rather than overall mobility, which is something that heavy can always benefit from, yes, but having overall mobility in my opinion is much more important rather than being able to travel long distances. If you want to be mobile, use the eviction notice, as the moment you put it away, the damage intake stops, so you can pull it out more in combat, thus making you more effective in actual mobility. Fun fact about mobility as heavy, a shotgun is the best way to dish off damage while still being mobile, at least in comparison to the minigun. Basically, no matter what item you use, if you go to pull out your minigun, when you attack with that you still move at the speed of a snail. Unlike a shotgun, you move a lot faster in comparison. You can dish off a lot more damage while still being mobile. You're not technically moving faster, you're just not moving slower. Again, I'll talk more about that in my Just the Tips on the default shotgun, so till then I hope this works as a placeholder for that. The next item, I admit, is alright, but it's not as good as its alternatives, thus the reason it's on this list. By all means, I do recommend it in some situations, but this item is the Delocs bar. It heals 100 HP on consumption and raises your max HP by 50, which actually increases your health regain from health packs as you have more max HP. But even with all those stats that went tossed, it's still only a small health pack, which does very little for your teammates. Given you can spam out a whole lot of them, it still doesn't compare to the sandwich. This weapon is actually fairly decent, but like I said, when it's compared to sandwiches and shotguns, it simply doesn't hold up. I do recommend this weapon sometimes as it is beneficial in some situations, but for this list I needed an item and I put this on because if you look at all the other items, this was the only choice I really had. Next up is one of the most panned items in all of TF2. That's right, it's the Brass Beast. The Brass Beast is the most criticized minigun as it only gives you 20% more damage, which is only noticeable at a close range, off the cost of moving slower and taking about a year to rev up. This weapon is seldomly useful in very specific situations, but even then, it's still not the best option. Don't get me wrong, this weapon is useful, it is just very rare it will shine above the other miniguns. This weapon does look pretty cool and its concept is one that seems interesting to me. It just has poor implementation by Valve. I did just do a video talking about how to rework the stats of this weapon, so if you want to go check that out, you know, you can find that video somewhere. I'm not going to plug it. Next up is an item that most pub players tend to dislike, but I still see one use for it. This item is the Buffalo Steak Sandwich. It restricts you to melee and makes you take 25% more damage from all sources, with the trade-off of doing mini crits, aka 35% more damage, and you move slightly faster than an average walk speed. So what this does is allows you to do 35% more damage, but you take 25% more damage, which is actually a tiny bit redundant. However, alongside that, you are stuck with melee only, so you can only do your extra damage from point blank, while the enemy can deal damage from any distance, including point blank. To make up for this, you can move slightly faster than others, which I guess is okay, because you have 300 HP. This weapon doesn't really change a whole lot, as it still takes 2 hits to kill most classes, which would be the exact same if you didn't use this item. However, this weapon can be useful for rollouts on those large maps like 5CP. But even then, you still have to time it to the exact second, as when you get there you can't cancel, you're stuck with melee till it wears off. Other than that, this weapon is not too beneficial. In fact, I believe it's more damaging than it is rewarding. You take 25% more damage for 20 seconds, and you do 35% more, which is nice, but you have to be right next to them. To me, that just doesn't seem that great of a trade-off. Now this final item, if you've known me at all, I used to love this weapon, but then it got nerfed really hard to the point of unusable. This is the Warrior Spirit. You do 30% more damage on melee hits, but you take 30% more damage from all sources, including melee hits. Also, you get 50 HP back on kill, which is like a fly landing on a battleship. You're not going to notice that. To cut it straight, this weapon is a cripple, as you do more damage at point blank, but the enemies do that exact level of damage right back. Except they don't have to be point blank if they want to do that damage to you. Now some people try to say, oh it's okay, you get 50 HP back, but that doesn't even stop fire or bleeding effects. So if you kill someone but they light you on fire, that health is gone. I cannot think of a single loadout in which this item would be as good as any other options, let alone decent. This weapon is a classic example of something that hurts you more than you gain from it. If you're looking for a challenge, try using this item. But if you're not a masochist and want to enjoy the game, I'd highly recommend using anything but this item. It really is not fun to use, take it from me. So that's going to do it for this countdown. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Well, either way you're entitled to your opinion, and I apologize if this video seemed a tiny bit shorter than you guys would have hoped, but I have been pretty swamped with Thanksgiving coming around and being an American and all. Either way, I hope you found this video informative, or at least entertaining. Have a swell day. Peace out.